Welcome to today's discussion on cybercrime and cyber safety organized by the Department of School Education, West Bengal Board of Primary Education, Paschim Banga Samagra Shiksha Mission and Expert Committee on School Education. Here is my colleague Mr. Rudranil Ghosh and I am Dhiman Basu. We are from the Expert Committee on School Education. Rudranil, today the word cybercrime, I should say the term cybercrime, is widely circulated in various print and electronic media. What actually constitutes a cybercrime? Can you explain it for us?
Recently, we can hear a lot of people talking about cybercrime, cyber safety in different media. Actually, in this COVID pandemic scenario, the people are spending much more time on the internet, and also the digital transactions has also increased. As a result, the possibility of becoming a victim of cybercrime has also increased proportionately. So let's now just define cybercrime. Cybercrime is a kind of offense where an individual or an institution or a company is targeted using laptops, computers or mobile technology. Now, let us just discuss how these cyber criminals commit such crime. Cyber criminals generally use different platforms like social networking sites, chat rooms, apps, websites, pirated softwares, etc. for targeting people. So basically, cybercrime is a kind of crime, as is apparent from its name. But the mode of committing the crime is different from the traditional ones.
Well, we have understood the meaning of the word cybercrime, but my question is, what is hacking? And we often say that my account has been hacked, or there are hackers who attacked a cyber system. What is hacking and who are the hackers? Will you please explain it for us?
Okay, so let's first take the word hacker. So let's define who are the hackers and what do they do. A hacker is someone who use or exploit technology causing the disruption or financial or reputational loss to people. Now, let us just discuss hacking. So, how do the hackers commit their crime? Generally, they use different harmful programs like malwares, trojans, viruses or spywares to attack computers and gain access to that data. But sometimes we mistakenly think that hackers and cyber criminals are synonymous. So let me just dispel this myth. So for that reason, I would like to familiarize you with two terms. One is ethical hacker and one is ethical hacking. Actually, what happens, certain big companies or institutions hire cybersecurity experts to find out the glitches or gaps or vulnerabilities in their systems, that is hardware, software or networks, and also their websites. So these cybersecurity experts examine their devices and networks and recommend certain measures so that the systems become much more stronger and less prone to cyber attacks. So the work that these experts do is termed as ethical hacking, and these experts are ethical hacker. So one thing we should keep in mind is that these ethical hackers are not committing any crime, but they are working to foil the attacks from criminals who try to steal our data.
Now, would you please explain the different types of cyber crimes that one might face while working, roaming on the internet? That would be very helpful to our viewers.
Okay. There are various kinds of cyber crimes. Let me start with an example. Suppose there is a famous restaurant or a eatery which has a very famous food item of which we all are aware. Suddenly we find an advertisement in a website that specific food item is being sold on offer. The offer being buy one get two free. So obviously we all are very excited. We log into that website and we pay the requisite amount of money and we order that food. Now this may happen that the food does not comes to your home, number one, and not only that, you may find that a substantial amount of money has been siphoned off from the account that was used to pay for that order. This is a common type of cybercrime. Now just let me discuss some specific types of cybercrime. The first in the list is email spoofing. So what is spoofing? It is basically to put it simply, to fool someone. What is done in this case is that emails are sent out that look like genuine and from a trusted email ID. But actually some person has faked that trusted email IDs and sent the mails to other people. Now let's take a small example to throw some light about the consequences of this kind of cybercrime. Suppose a person has faked your email ID and he is sending numerous emails to various persons, and those emails contain slanderous or foul language or comments. Now what will happen? Those persons who have received those emails will think that you have sent those emails and you can be booked for cybercrime unless and until you can prove that you are not the person who have sent those mails, but someone is faking your email ID and sending those mails. So this is a kind of cybercrime. Now let me go to the second type. It is called cyberbullying. We all know that in our society sometimes some people encounter different kinds of bullying or harassment. It may be a mental one or a physical one. Now what is a cyberbullying then? When a person or a community is targeted by slandering using communication and electronic devices like mobiles, laptops, computers, then it is called cyberbullying. And just like the physical bullying, the victims of cyberbullying also suffer from depression or trauma. Only the difference here is that the mode of cyberbullying is virtual rather than the physical one. Now let's go to the third one. It's called social engineering. The name seems to be a mouthful, but it's very simple. We all are very aware about that. What happens in social engineering is that the cyber criminals gain your confidence and then get away with the data. First of all, they send some friend requests or through social networking sites, then they befriend you, they gain your confidence, and then they get away with your data. Ultimately, this will cause you financial loss. Just let's take an example. Suppose you have befriended an unknown person in a social networking site. After some months, that person has told you that he or she is facing some financial problems. So it will be better if you can send him some or her some money. And out of good faith, you have done just that. But after sending the money, that person may go untraceable. So after sending the money, you won't find that person anywhere in the social networking site. This can be one scenario. But cyber criminals sometimes adopt different techniques. Suppose you have befriended a foreign national. After some months, that person may tell you that he or she is sending some valuable package for you, which may be worth in lakhs in Indian currency. All you have to do is send some rupees, say 10,000 for custom duties or some other fictitious charges. Now, if you comply to this request, two things may happen. Number one, that gift may never arrive at your house. Number two, this is more dangerous. The link that he or she has sent to you, maybe through email, for sending the money was hiding some malwares or trojans. What these programs will do? These programs will collect your financial data and maybe with the help of the financial data, some fraudulent online transaction may happen in future, resulting in financial loss. The next type of cybercrime is identity theft. It is very apparent from the name. What happens here is that someone deliberately uses some other person's identity for any financial benefit or getting credit from somewhere else. So basically what happens, you may face financial or reputational loss. Now let me discuss an example. So basically someone will get hold of your data and land you in danger. So what he or she can do, maybe we will get an SMS or email from a trusted site or from a trusted source that you have won a considerable amount of money in an online lottery. All you have to do is just click on the link and fill in some details. So since that email or SMS has come from a trusted source, without concern you have clicked on that link, and after clicking on that link you have landed on a website, and on that website there was a form. You have filled in all your financial details, and while filling the details, this thought hadn't crossed your mind that what you are doing is just handing all your financial data on a silver platter to the cyber criminals. So after they get the data, in future it may so happen that money will be lost from your bank account. This is a kind of identity theft. But sometimes these cyber crimes, the types of cyber crimes can be a bit overlapping. Let's recall the first type of cyber crime that I have already discussed, that email spoofing, where a person is faking your email ID and sending emails to other persons. This is also a case of identity theft, or it may take another dimension when some person will create a fake account on a social networking site using your photograph and your details, and then they will befriend some random persons or maybe some persons from your acquaintances, and then they will post some provocative or inflammatory comments which will ultimately cause you reputational loss. So these are the some common types of identity theft. Now let's go to the next type of cybercrime. It's called banking fraud. How does this kind of cybercrime occur? Suppose a person fraudulently obtain money from the depositors by posing as a bank or any other financial institution. So ultimately this banking fraud, as is very apparent from its name, will cause financial loss. We are very conversant with some kinds of banking fraud in our everyday life. Let me take an example from there. Suppose you get a call from some people telling you that they are calling on behalf of such and such bank, and and they require your debit card details. Until and unless you give them the debit card details, your debit card will be blocked. Now if you comply to this request, what will happen or what may happen is that they will just get your financial data and they will just get away with the money that was in that particular bank account. Or sometimes this kind of banking fraud may not be that simple. Let me give an example. In these days, we are very accustomed to using net banking, using different banking websites. Suppose I have an account in a bank called as My Bank. The official website of that bank is www.mybank.com. Please remember that the name of my bank is MYBANK, but I do not know the exact address, website address of that bank. So what I have done, I have just Googled for mybank.com. So one of the results that have come up after Googling is also www.mybank.com. I have clicked on that link and web page opened that looks just like my bank's original home page, but while clicking on that website link, I didn't even notice that the spelling of that website is a bit different. That is, the My Bank there spells MYYBANK. That means it has an extra Y. But since I am very sure that I have opened my bank's net banking website, I enter my financial details without even knowing that I am submitting my financial details to a fake banking website, which may result financial loss in some future days. So these are some common types of cyber crimes.
Very well, Rudranil. But the situation is alarming because the common people, we are not that much conversant with these things. So one thing comes in mind that in today's society, it's very difficult to do away with the internet and not avail ourselves of the various uses of it. I mean the net banking and online payments and so many things there. So can you tell us about the ways which will help us protect our financial and other data from these hackers?
Yes, it's a very pertinent question in today's scenario. So how to be wary and cautious? So let me just tell you, we will have to be very alert and vigilant, because the cyber crime as such is in an ever evolving state. Why have I said that? Because as soon as we become aware about a particular type of cyber crime, the cyber criminals just change their modus operandi. So we will have to be much more observant. We will have to watch the news media, the news portals for different types of cyber crime that occur recently, and also we will have to be very aware about the modus operandi of those cyber crimes. So we will have to be always one step ahead from those cyber criminals. This is number one. What is number two? Number two is, we will never accept friend requests from unknown persons. Because in the social networking sites there is a thing such as mutual friends, so we sometimes get friend requests from unknown persons. But we will never accept friend requests from unknown persons unless and until we are very sure about that person's identity. Thirdly, we are in the habit of sharing various personal memories in the social networking sites. We will have to remember that the less we share, the more secure we are. There is a common trend in social networking sites nowadays to check in at various places. Suppose I have gone to a place out of my state or out of my country, and I have checked in at a hotel. So I just make a post in the social networking site that I have checked in at this hotel, or I may have gone to this cinema hall, or I may have gone out to this restaurant to dine out. I just post in the social networking site that I have checked in to these places. What I do not even think that while posting these check-in reports, I am sending this information to every other person apart from my friends who can view these posts that I am not at my house, or I like to visit this restaurant for dining out. So it may so happen that after some time the cyber criminals may send a link with a lucrative offer for that restaurant. Obviously that link will be a fake one, or some untoward incidents may occur at my house because that cyber criminals already know that I am not at my house. Also, please remember that bad people start at first by gaining your confidence, then cause you harm. Now coming to the next cyber safety measure, it is to protect your privacy. Now how to protect our privacy? We have various accounts in the social networking sites, various banking accounts, accounts for online shopping malls, our email accounts. All these accounts are protected by passwords, but we should use strong passwords. Now how to use strong passwords? I would like to share some tips regarding this. First of all, the passwords should be at least 8 to 10 characters long. Number one. Number two, there should be at least one uppercase and one lowercase alphabet in your password. Not only that, there should be at least one number and at least one symbol or special character in your password. Apart from this, never use any memorable day in your life, like your birthday, your anniversary day, or your son's or daughter's birthday, in a password, because the people who knows about these days can guess your password. The same thing holds true while setting the ATM pins. Never use any memorable days as ATM pins. Now coming to the next one. Sometimes we get requests in our mobile phone to install this app, or in computer to install this software. So the next cyber safety measure that I am going to talk about is never install any app or software from any unknown sources. Sometimes they even tell you that please install this anti-malware, but you do not even know that by installing that anti-malware you are opening your door to some malwares which will ultimately get the control of your system or device and then get away with your data. The next is trolling. Now trolling is a kind of cybercrime. We should refrain from committing such crime. Sometimes we unknowingly commit this kind of crime. So first let's explain what is trolling. Sometimes we come across various hateful, inciting or provocative comments in social networking sites targeting sometimes a person or sometimes a community. This is termed as trolling. This is a serious kind of cybercrime. So please desist from committing such crimes. The next safety measure that I would like to mention is never share your OTP. Sometimes we search the internet for customer care numbers of different companies or banks, but what may happen is this: sometimes you may come across some fake numbers, and if you use those numbers then you may land up in trouble. And the last cyber safety measure that I would like to mention is, if at any point of time you feel that you have become a victim of cyber crime, please report immediately to your local or national agencies. Now in this COVID scenario, online classes are going on for the students. So I would like to conclude today's session with some safety tips for the students. Number 1, please use strong passwords for your account so that your data remain secure. Number 2, if at any point of time when the online classes are going on, you feel that you have become a victim of cyber bullying, then immediately inform your teacher. And the third one, never install any apps or softwares from a link sent from unknown sources. Only install apps or softwares from known sources that you are very much sure that they are trusted and secure sources. And not only for installing apps, never click on any link that have come from unknown sources for any other purpose. Always try to download the apps or softwares from trusted and secure sources, just like the Google Play Store for the Android platform, or the Apple App Store for the iOS platform, or the Microsoft Store for the Windows platform. So stay vigilant, stay secure and stay safe.
Thank you, Rudranil, for this nice and very informative discussion on cyber crime and cyber safety. I hope all of us, all the viewers will benefit from this discussion. Thank you.